Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film They Live in the Gray. It's a Shudder original, and it's coming to Shudder Thursday, February 17th. First off, I just want to tell you, disregard the pinkness of my cheeks. I'm actually on a steroid pack right now for some inner ear inflammation, so that's why that's going on. So do the best you can to disregard that, but I guess it kind of matches my shirt a little bit with the pinks in my Poltergeist shirt, which is a really sweet shirt. Anyway, we're talking about They Live in the Gray. Now, do need to say off the bat, this is not a subgenre of horror I typically enjoy. That said, I do think it's a good film, and I do think people who are more into this particular subgenre will like it a lot more than me, but I'm trying to take that out of this as I do my review and when I do my rating, so just know that. Written and directed by Abel Vang and Burlee Vang, go by the Vang brothers in the credits. They've also done films Nia Siab Zoo, Hollywood Chaos, and Bedeviled. So obviously they've done at least one other horror film. You can tell, by the way, like the directing, the cinematography, like it looks polished. It looks like they've been doing this for a while. It looks like they definitely know what they're doing. But I'll talk a little bit more about that. Once again, coming to Shudder on Thursday, February 17th. So because this is before the film is coming out when I'm releasing this, and also it's just a new film, this is no spoiler review. Although if you've already seen the film and you're finding this, there's enough extra stuff in it that people won't get if they haven't seen it that you will get if you have seen it. So it's a review kind of for both, walking a line. Quick synopsis. I don't want to say too much about this. It is mainly about a woman who is a social worker, works for Child Protective Services, and she ends up taking on this one particular case that kind of interests her a little bit more because of what's really at play here. Now, obviously, there is a horror element to it, so you can kind of let your mind go. I don't want to say too much, honestly, because if people want to be totally surprised throughout the film, although you will start to understand at least 20 minutes into the film what really is at play here. But I don't want to ruin anything for anyone, so that's basically all I'm going to say. And that I do think it's pretty solid. Solid attention-grabbing first scene to the film. It really actually sets a very particular mood that they're trying to capture with it, and I think they do a good job for the most part of maintaining that mood throughout it. They also do a pretty good job at times of really building some dread atmosphere. Now, on the other hand, there are moments where they kind of lose the atmosphere with the slow pacing of the film. This film is 2 hours long, and it really should not be 2 hours long, in my opinion. There's a lot of extra stuff that really needed to be edited out to kind of keep it feeling like it's moving a little bit better, like it's tighter of a film, and like I said, like you lose some of that atmosphere that you've built and are trying to maintain when the film starts to feel like it's slowing down, and also when they do things, which it feels like they do a decent amount, start retreading some of the same material that they've already taken care of. As a writer, you just need to understand, when you've kind of hit the point. The audience is smart enough that they'll kind of pick up on what you're trying to put down. You don't have to, tell it to them numerous times. Just saying. They go between present and past a little bit to kind of weave the story, which is important to what's going on. It definitely is. And I think their integration of like past versus present, it's not a ton of it, but it's done well. Like it serves the story quite well, and I like that. The film looks quite good. Like I said, it's very nicely shot, great directing, great cinematography. The shot selections are interesting at times too. Like there's really inspired directing and cinematography going on here, and that's what I like to see in films. And it's a big surprise when you see it in the lower budget films, because a lot of lower budget films, independent films, it can just be like, oh, this is serviceable directing, this is serviceable cinematography. So when you get something like this where it's some notches above that, it's like, oh wow, this is quite nice. So obviously the Vang brothers know what they're doing. I would just kind of point to the script being a little bit of a problem as far as being too long, needing to be cut down some. But other than that, pretty good. About 20 minutes into it, it takes a interesting turn to lead you down a certain path, which they don't go away from at that point. So you will really understand what's at play horror-wise in this film once you kind of hit around the 20-minute mark. And it is interesting. It definitely hooks you in further. The atmosphere is such that you think something could happen just about every moment. or at any moment, I should have said. Now, that does get dissipated with what I was talking about with, the film starting to slow down and them kind of retreading some of the same stuff here and there. It gets taken away at those moments, but for the most part, when they're like holding the dread, they're holding the atmosphere that's been created, you really do feel like you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know when. Like, you literally feel like anything could happen at any time, and, a jump scare could get you, you think. So, that is a good thing. The characters are well written. I do have to really pat them on the back for this, because with a review for another film that I just did recently, Slapface, one of my biggest criticisms is the characters were very paper thin, and there was really no backstory, no like good backstory to them. There was no real development of the characters. These characters are pretty rich, especially the main character. There's plenty of backstory given, maybe a little bit too much in my opinion, but plenty of backstory given. You really understand the characters, a lot of depth that you can see and feel with this individual. And I will also say that the acting performances really do help with that good character writing on top of it. The dialogue's written well as well. So obviously, the Vang brothers know script writing. Like I said, just, editing things down is just the big thing to focus on, in my opinion. There are a lot of good things going on here, though. The film is slow and does feel like it retreads some ground. I already talked about that. About 50 minutes into the film, it takes a step up in the dread factor. Now, once again, because of some of the pacing, that does kind of ratchet back down, because it does seem to be like a lull at some point. I just really would have liked it to see where they kind of like introduce the real dread at about 20 minutes in, then up it at about 50 minutes in, but like maintain that. So like maintain the 20-minute level of dread. Then when you hit the 50-minute, it moves up, and maintain that all the way through to the end. And I just feel like it's so hard to do that with a 2-hour film. Now, it can be done with a 2-hour film, but you need to keep things moving. You need to keep introducing new stuff and new scares and more ideas and stuff like that. Just saying. There are some solid horror images that are conjured within this, even though you can tell that it's a low-budget film. So kudos to them knowing what their budget is and working within that budget to actually deliver, for lack of a better term, good scares. There are some legitimately good-looking scares in this, some legitimately good-looking gore in this, some violence that really does hold up, especially for a low-budget film. So they know how to make things work, and that is a good thing. I do like the way they shot the ending of the film. It actually really adds the intensity. It's one of those kind of shots where, it's handheld, so it's shakier, but it feels appropriate for what's going on. Like I said, it increases the intensity of what's going on, and it just kind of like makes things feel very chaotic, which is great. It's a wonderful thing. And this just goes back to what I was talking about with the directing and cinematography being done so well. There is a bit of a twist to it, which I think is pretty solid. It's not like a blow you away type twist to it, but there is a twist. I always appreciate some sort of twist, and if it's solid, like it is in this case, I'm good. I'm happy with it. Like many horror films, this film actually deals a lot with loss and grief. Now, this is something that's very popular within horror to kind of address. I do think they do it in their own way, so it's not like they're retreading or just fully retreading other people's material. They do kind of put their own spin on it, so that's wonderful in my opinion. It's always good to kind of get, new voices talking about some of the same old stuff, because then it feels fresher. So I like that about the film. It also plays at the trauma and burden taken on by people in certain lines of work. This one in particular, because I already set up for the synopsis, Child Protective Services. The fact that people deal with kind of taking on trauma from what they have to do for the job, taking on other people's trauma onto themselves, and kind of the impact of that. Also, at the same time, trying to deal with your own issues in life, your own traumas that you've suffered from. So it's just this thing that compounds, and I think that's a lot of what this film was really trying to capture, and I think they do. They definitely do capture that, so that's good. An aspect of this film does feel a lot like a very well-known horror film. I will not say what it is, because it would give an aspect of the film away that I don't want to give away, but when you watch it, you'll most likely, if you're a horror fan, you'll be like, this feels a little bit like this film. One aspect of it, that is. It's not like a full ripoff or anything like that. So, overall, enjoyed this film enough. Sorry, my energy level's on the lower end because this steroid pack's making me feel crappy, but doing what I can. But yeah, solid film. Now, as far as star rating, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I was thinking about giving it 3.5 stars, but I think ultimately I'm going to give it 3 because there are some things that really suffer with the film because of the pacing, because it's so long, unnecessarily so. So I'm going to downgrade it to a 3, but had it been tightened up a lot more, a lot of other really good things, I would have done 3.5. Maybe even, no, probably not 4 at that point, but 3.5 definitely I would have. So giving it a 3 though because of the issue of pacing. But anyway, I would love to hear other people's opinions. If you've already seen the film, go ahead and comment on your thoughts. Like it, love it, in between, especially if you have a differing opinion than me, because I love to hear other opinions on these films. What am I missing? Or what am I not liking because I'm not a big fan of the subgenre? Well, let's talk about that. Also, if you haven't seen the film, go ahead and watch it, then come back and comment. And do me a quick favor. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that for me. That is literally the best way to repay me for doing this. Free content. At the moment when I'm doing this, I'm not making money doing this or anything, so it's more for creativity and building a nerdy horror community. People I can talk nerdy about horror with. So yeah, love the comments for that reason, so I can geek out with people, but also it's just nice when I see someone new subscribe, because I'm like, this person gets it. Like, they think that my content is worth actually sitting down and watching, and that feels good. I'm always very grateful when I feel like someone has found value in what I'm putting out there. So please consider subscribing, and also hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. And I'm putting up usually 4 a week, sometimes more, never less, actually. But anyway, thanks everyone for checking this out. I really do appreciate that. And until next time, keep it brutal.